We'll just accept it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of League Weekly. It is August 14th, and as we're doing this, we have finished the final promotion tournament. Hey, Matt, subscribed. And we are about to go into the LCS playoffs, and it is Monday. And we're live on Twitch, and everything's great. Let me go ahead and introduce all of my colleagues on the show. First off, we've got Emily Rand from beautiful Los Angeles, California. How's it going, Emily?
Pretty well. I actually was not there for the promotion tournament this weekend because I was covering the Overwatch World Cup in Santa Monica, which was actually really fun. So it was cool.
Nice. How did you enjoy Overwatch World Cup compared to, League of Legends?
It's definitely, it's a lot different. I don't really think there's, any sort of one-to-one comparison to be made, but it was really cool to talk to, every single player I talked to was really open, and forthright about, how they started Overwatch, what they think the game, and stuff like that. So it was just really cool to talk to a lot of the pros and semi-pros that are there, especially with all the chatter that's been going on with Overwatch League itself. So. Yeah. Right before this stage started, actually, was when C9 announced that they had the London spot. So yeah, that was kind of looming over everything that was going on. So yeah, I don't know. It was actually really fun, and I'll have a bunch of stuff coming out this week on it, as well as other things on League of Legends. So
yeah, I'm going to try and figure out why we're lagging. XSplit says that we're not dropping frames, but I will double check just in case.
I mean, if you were having trouble with connectivity before, I would not be surprised if that is resulting in the lag as well.
Yeah, or Twitch is having issues or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry everyone for the slow start to the show.
I was excited. I wanted to go to Overwatch League thing, but I couldn't with
work.
Yeah, it was problems. Yeah. No, it was really fun. I was actually surprised since I think a lot of it has to do with the average age of Overwatch players is a little bit older. So maybe they even if they lack media experience, they're a little bit I guess poised. I don't know, I was really surprised that there were at least one or two people on every team that were very it appeared like they had media training, they're very well spoken and stuff like that. Cool.
I think part of that might just be I feel like shooter game players in general are on the spectrum of gamers further to the not nerdy side. Just generally COD players, Team Fortress 2 players, most of those guys who I've met have all been CSGO players, a lot less nerdy in general.
But what about the e-girls?
I don't know. Can't comment on the e-girl scene for those respective esports.
Okay.
All right. Next, and Mark's already been talking as I've been trying to figure out the lag issues. But Mark, how's your week been?
Pretty good. I cast the promo attorney.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in just a second. But overall, fun tourney to cast, or was it a pain?
What was that?
I said, was it an overall fun tournament to cast, or was it a pain?
It was kind of fun. Not as fun as the last promo tourney, just because it felt like last time GC was super close and you thought they might do it, and then this time around that you thought they were going to do good again, and then they got destroyed by E United, and E United did not look competitive versus Team Liquid So2. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to be close on the final day, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that again just in a second. And then we've got Kelsey Moser from, I almost said Brazil. I don't know why. From Berlin. How's it going, Kelsey?
Not bad. We had the final week of ULCS. China's still going on. I just wanted to briefly introduce people to, this is my microphone. Okay. Yes, I do own one. It's not my microphone's fault. My voice just sucks. I'm sorry.
Well, I think you said it was the apartment you're in is really
the apartment is also, the room is really large, so I'm trying to find
What if you brought it closer?
Yeah.
You just held it right here.
Yeah.
Just hold it close to my face.
Yeah.
Does this help?
It does,
I feel
actually.
That would get everything.
It does. Well, I mean, that's why I have the boom. I have that same microphone, and it's on this thing, which is unreasonable because you travel a lot, but I do think maybe if we figure out a way to get it closer to you, it'll be better. But also, I understand the room is echoing.
Closer, I guess, but
Yeah.
generally.
Just anytime you're going to talk, just like lean down and talk into the microphone. That's the way to go.
I'm just, yeah.
All right. Well, we are already running late because Twitch decided to shit itself. So let's move into the first topic, which was, of course, the North American LCS-CS Final Promotion Relegation Tournament casted by Mark Zimmerman. That all happened this past weekend. I think that's the official title for it. And Mark, you already kind of prefaced this, but not a very exciting tournament, or not a very exciting weekend.
No, I mean, the games themselves were, like, pretty low level. People would take, like, scaling comps and then get, like, some good ganks off in the early game and then continue to play mid-game aggressive before they've actually power spiked and then, like, lose fights. It was just, like, all-around relatively ugly gameplay. No new teams made it in. P1 made it through and, like, won a series just off, like, multiple series, really, just, like, off Ryu hulking out and, like, not looking great as a team. And I mean, the most eventful thing was like the special thing, and then other than that, it was just not a very interesting tournament. And it kind of, I guess, I don't know how you guys feel with it being the last promo tourney. Would you have rather seen it go out with a bang, where it's like, oh my god, what a great tournament, or would you rather see it kind of go out with a whimper like it kind of did?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Emily.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, so I would have rather had, and this is coming from someone who, like, I'll be up front, I wasn't able to watch most of the games just because I was at Overwatch World Cup all weekend. But I would have, so personally, I would have rather seen it go out with a bang with, like, some really good games. But then Challenger has always been this really weird thing in general that I don't necessarily feel like was developed as well as it could have been or promoted as well as it could have been. And I know even the series, this past split where we had, like, obviously
Delta
a lot
Fox.
of, yeah, well, but, like, you guys didn't have enough broadcast talent to, like, cover the games anymore and stuff like that. Like, it just kind of, it already seemed like it was going out with a whimper before this specific promotion tournament even began. Hopefully you don't take offense to that, Mark, but, like, it was a fitting end, I guess, to this
I feel like
split.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like they kind of, because I was part of, like, the team as they're setting up the schedule. They're like, all right, so we're going to increase the number of games, like, best of this. That means we can't cover all of them, so we'll just build something so some teams get some representation. And then the Delta Fox thing happened, and they're like, fuck, this is, like, one of the most hyped things to happen, regardless of whether or not it's actually going to be, like, good games. The storyline is at least like, oh my god, all my favorite streamers, after they were kind of trying to set it up to be less covered. And that's when everyone wants the most coverage. So that was kind of weird, as well as the fact that there's, like, the writing on the wall that the promo tourney doesn't super matter in some sense this time around, and then the games themselves work. It just felt like,
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm actually okay with that going out with a whimper because I'm curious about your take on this, Mark. But how long has it been since we had a promotion team get in?
Last year with FlyQuest.
FlyQuest.
Did they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They got in with Cloud9 Challenger
at the end of the year. So it's been
end of summer.
Okay, so that is more recently than I had thought. I guess it just feels weird whenever I think of FlyQuest, it feels like they've always been in the LCS because there are a bunch of players who have always been in the LCS. But I do, seeing spring and summer, it makes me wonder. Like, let's say Challenger wasn't going away. Do you think a team could have qualified in for spring next year or summer? Like, this is kind of the point, is that I feel like Challenger was going to be kind of dead anyway because I think LCS is getting good enough and enough infrastructure, and they're picking up, like, if there's good talent and you can't fit it onto a team, then you just get them anyway and you put them on the bench or whatever. So that's less talent that's available for Challenger. So then Challenger started having to reach further and further across oceans to get talent, and I just feel like you weren't going to see a situation where teams were qualifying in anytime soon anyway, which really just makes that whole situation feel worthless. So I don't mind seeing a kind of boring final tournament because it just, in my mind, justifies the elimination of this thing anyway.
Yeah, I agree for the most part, just because these teams that United and GCU, they were like pretty legitimate teams in terms of like they got imports, they did the best that they could with their native players, they had coaching staffs, they like for the most part were not that separate from LCS teams in terms of resources and effort. It's just, you know, they're playing in a league that's not as competitive. It's probably hard to get scrims, stuff like that. So for whatever, it does feel like it'd be better just to like expand the LCS if you want to include teams like GCU and Tempo Storm or whatever the hell. And like Emily was saying, the Challenger Series itself has never been exactly what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Either way, it's like it's kind of failing at what it wants to do. It's not super interesting anymore at this point because it feels like, oh, Dandy and Mad Life are down here. What the fuck?
Yeah. Mark, why do you think that the tournament was so bad?
I think, well, for two reasons. I feel like a lot of players' hearts weren't really in it. I think on P1, you could kind of like, those guys were like just super down the whole weekend, even when they were winning and stuff like that. I think Team Liquid was the only team with any sort of like excitement at all in their players. Like when they won, they kind of popped off, but P1 was not that way. E United, when they beat GCU, was not like super like woohoo. I don't know, and it's hard to say exactly why it was that way, but it was.
Yeah. Kelsey, you were going to say something, I think, right?
I was just going to say, to your point, Travis, even the fact that C9C was the team that got in, and it's just an established org. They already had established players that came from that org, so it's kind of like still feeding into what's already existing.
Yep. All right. Well, that's the promotion tournament, the final one. But one interesting thing that popped up. So at the start of the weekend, I tweeted something like, you know, this might be one of the highest prize pools in League of Legends history because if you qualify in, you get to your franchise team or a NBA or NFL or whatever team pays you $3 million to move on, which is significant. This then was kind of clarified. You know, there were several different people that came out to say, hey, that's not how this works. And this is kind of weird to me. Whenever the announcement happened that franchising was coming, what I heard was that if a team enters the LCS through franchising and was not previously part of it, they have to pay $3 million in to compensate teams that are leaving. So I always thought that this was like a direct one-to-one swap. Like, all right, Phoenix 1, you're not in the LCS anymore because the San Diego Padres entered the LCS. You now get $3 million as compensation for the fact that you invest into this thing, and now you're not part of it. But then something interesting happened where people started to say that it was actually pooled. All these $3 millions that come in, you know, whether it's one or multiple, go into a pool, and then that's split across challenger teams and league teams. And the person who specifically tweeted this at me was Chris Greeley, who is the Riot Games League Operations Discipline Lead. So, yeah, specifically he wrote, all non-applying / not picked CS and LCS teams get a piece of a pool funded by $3 million fees. LCS worth more and payouts. So, and I asked if there was more information. They said providing more context soon. So, it just makes the whole thing more confusing in my mind.
So, I can try and provide some clarity if you would like me to.
Yes.
So Freak wanted to take it all up because I think where the initial confusion came from was they kept saying LCS teams have to pay $3 million less, but it also included CS teams. They never explicitly said that anywhere. So like if you were a part of the League of Legends competitive esport ecosystem, you would not have to pay that extra $3 million. You would just pay the 10. And anyone who is trying to invest or like create a team that is not currently in the system would pay the 13 million. So you'd be saving $3 million. People thought that meant that if you made it into the LCS, you didn't have to pay $3 million less. That was not the case ever. And then the way this thing works is, if you aren't picked to make it into the LCS, from my understanding, you get some kind of like severance package where it's just like, thanks, dude. Here's your money for not getting picked. Here's like your little payout. And however much you make is based off how important you were to the ecosystem as a whole in some weird way. So like if you're E United like you've been here for a year or something, and they like, I don't know if there's equations or math or if it's guesstimates exactly how it happens, but that results in your payout. And anyone who comes in outside the space, that 3 million goes into that pool. That like it's not a set rate where like every team who doesn't make it makes X amount.
Yeah.
If you were in the like let's say Phoenix 1 gets kicked out, they've been in the LCS for like a year and a half. Their payout would most likely be much larger than E United, who's been in Challenger Series for only a year.
Waylon just walks around like a man in a strip club and throws cash at all the different LCS and CS owners that are getting kicked out.
I was gonna say this seems like very. Like last week we talked about statistics and applying them in League of Legends without knowing the algorithm or formula. This seems like so much worse when there are teams kind of trying to save large amounts of money.
So in the theoretical possible world where TSM don't make it in, that just shrinks the pools of literally
It's like you now get
TSM
90%.
cash in for like $15 million. They're like, get me out of here, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting breakdown because I also find it interesting that they conveniently didn't misconceptions until the promotion tournament was basically over, and they just let people continue believing it's like, oh yeah, the promotion tournament is so hype. There's actually like a $3 million prize for being top 2, and it's like, actually, no, it probably doesn't change that much the payout that you get, but thanks for playing. I'm glad you all watched this tournament.
Very confused. So Twitch chat is telling us that certain people sound like robots and certain people don't. And then I asked, is it still happening? And I saw yes, no, yeah, not at the moment. It's not that often. Fine now. And then people making
what faces?
Emojis of pain. So I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Sorry, that sound like a robot.
No, you don't sound like it to any of us.
None of us sound like robots.
None of you sound like robots.
Twitch is just losing its mind today, I think is what's happening. Like somebody...
They don't like on our end. They don't like our show. They have lowered the bandwidth that Travis's channel is able to output.
They're trying to phase us out slowly.
Yeah. They're all robots. Okay, I'm gonna restart the stream. And
how about we restart the call too while we're at it?
Yes, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back.
You could only go to Mexico City.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back. Mexico City allowed us to stream. That's great.
Thank you, Mexico City.
Yeah.
You know what it probably is? It's these American ISPs throttling you, Travis, in Mexico, letting you over the border or something. I don't know where I'm going with this.
All right.
Neither do I.
I have no clue. Yeah.
So anyway, we were talking about the promotion tournament, the payouts, and how much is awarded to different teams. I don't know if we had any opinions on this, other than that it's kind of interesting, and I'm curious to find out more about how the system works.
And yeah, I really just wanted to point out that it was conveniently, the details were conveniently just kind of muddied until the end of promotion. Also, I feel like for the express purpose of increasing like the interest in promotion, which isn't bad, but I think it's interesting.
I don't think they were muddied so that promotion interest would increase. I think they were muddied because they probably don't have a very good answer on how they're going to do the stuff yet.
That's potentially true.
Right?
I just think
right
that
is
people
never
were
that strategic.
hyping it up. I just feel like they were hyping it up. Like people were hyping it up, like the 3 million thing, well before this weekend, and it was only really addressed as, oh well, that's not actually true until maybe the second day of the tournament. Or
it was the final day. Freak went on the desk and finally like laid out how it's supposed to work, and that was more of like his personal decision. He was like, can I please just clarify like exactly what's going on here?
Yeah. All right. Move.
I mean, it's.
Oh
no, I was just gonna say it does seem like regardless, franchising was kind of looming over this entire tournament anyway, which I think may have also possibly affected the gameplay quality.
You would think it would increase the gameplay quality.
One would hope.
Yeah, you would think there'd be less pressure or something.
Yeah, less pressure, or maybe like the
They
owners
want to
all
show
want
off.
to put a lot of resources in to make sure they can get in, because like if you are a E United or a Gold Coin United. Which,
Yes,
by the way, why were there
yeah.
2 United teams? I don't understand. Anyway,
There's last tournament too, Travis.
yeah, I know, but it's
I
so
felt
weird.
like GCU, all their investment went into the video. That was very
The side
obviously, in
video.
my opinion, like designed to impress Riot in some way. But yeah,
We have marketing, yeah.
woo!
I can't believe they like. I was more impressed with the fact they managed to corral all those players into doing that.
Yeah. Well, we can all appreciate our former colleague Rachel from Yahoo because
Yes.
she was consulting.
Good job, Rachel.
All right. Overrating
well.
ninjas in pajamas. Kelsey Moser.
Overrating NIP. So there was a really interesting week in EU LCS to close the week. There was a lot of weird games, but even in the games that weren't weird, the games that were for seeding, like the first day, Fnatic and G2 came in and they played bottom tier teams in their group. They played Rocket and NIP, and both of them lost. So that automatically gave Fnatic the seed, even though theoretically if G2 had beaten Rocket, they could then beat Fnatic to get first in the group later in the week. So it ended up not mattering because both teams lost, so Fnatic just automatically got first. But because NIP won and Rocket won, and then later on we had Unicorns of Love versus Vitality and H2K versus Monkeys, so H2K was the only team that managed to beat a bottom 4 team, the only top 4 team that managed to actually beat a bottom 4 team. And then so people were talking about now how much better NIP is than Mysterious Monkeys, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that H2K managed to defeat Mysterious Monkeys when going into the week. Yeah, there was some speculation that NIP are a bit better at this point, but mostly people were saying, yeah, they're roughly equal. I think we'll see some challengers teams get into LCS, and they aren't like doing that well, but then suddenly, because NIP just happened to beat Fnatic, people are really, really rating NIP highly. And I think that people aren't really looking at the circumstances under which these victories happened and are suddenly kind of on this like weird NIP hype train. So I thought it was an interesting topic to address.
So, how much of this was Nico the Pico being the greatest coach that ever existed?
You can read a very long and engrossing interview that Kelsey had.
Did you say, engrossing. I thought you said
Actually.
embarrassing interview. Like Kelsey's like, I'm
No,
so embarrassed.
I
engrossing.
mean,
that
depending
in,
on
like-
how you read it, it's a little embarrassing. I mean, I'm not going to
Very
editorialize it
interesting. Yeah.
because
Can you give me a recap?
Yeah.
So you guys are probably aware of the whole Nico the Pico Fnatic situation that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So he has this long split. NIP are kind of pegged as the origins of the season, like not expected to win anything. They end up winning 2 series. The last series they win is against Fnatic. So I said, okay, I want a Nico the Pico interview. I come in to the interview room, and then I ask him like a couple softball questions about the games and stuff, and then I ask him about Fnatic, and he goes on this like extremely long rant. I totally did not expect it. About like his time on Fnatic, all the things that happened on Fnatic, how he built the team, and then all this other stuff. And so it's like, okay, this is interesting. But I mean, the gist of the interview is effectively that he felt like because of the strong personalities on Fnatic and the fact that Jess had experience as a coach, which by the way he brought up like 5 times throughout the interview, so as Amazing was on the team for a bit. They had Reckless. He said that because of this, like, there wasn't really a need for a coach on that team, and he had more of like a time management role. And he feels like if he had stayed with the team, regardless, they would be in the same position now. So basically saying that, there's no difference between them having a coach and them not having a coach, which you can easily make a case for because their results actually drastically improved when he left. But and they had no coach for a while. So I think like this is like his entire thing was that the reason why he was kicked from the team kind of is that they lost to Rocket. Rocket had this really long win streak at the end of Spring Split. And because Fnatic are a very proud team, they wanted to make some kind of change. It was after roster lock, so he was the only change that could be made, and it was like not his fault and everything else. So, and That was the general gist. And then, of course, like the Fnatic Academy Misfits Misfits Academy section. He also talked about Fnatic Academy, Misfits Academy, NIP. Basically, he said that they had already built a roster. They had initially intended to buy a CS spot. They couldn't buy a CS spot, so they bought an LCS spot. He wanted, like, one of the weirdest parts was where he said that, I would have preferred if we had bought the Misfits Academy spot because I have a personal relationship with the Fnatic Academy players. So they would, obviously prefer that I would have kicked the other players. But yeah, so that was a little awkward too. But like that's kind of the gist of it. Anyway, that actually has nothing to do with the topic that I brought up, but
so
it's an interesting one anyway.
Back to the topic that you brought up, which was overrating NIP. So what was you explained the whole circumstances behind what happened this past weekend. Are you saying that because of this, people think NIP is better than they are now?
Yeah, I think people are saying that NIP are better than they are. And if you go back and you look at the drafts, like, you have this Lucian mid craze that started because everyone watches LCK, and also, and to an extent, because of Ardent Sensor champs. Like, if you build double AD, and yay, Ardent Sensor, everyone.
So do you think this?
And then you go Lucian, and then you go either Maokai or Elise jungle, and then you go AP top because you're going Lucian mid, and so you pick Rumble, and then you have no engage, and you lose. And I feel like this was a huge trap that a lot of the EU LCS teams are falling into, is just like drafting these Rumble comps and having no engage against lower tier teams. And I think that was part of why, if you compound that with also the fact that this week was a little less significant in their minds, and they just assumed they'd probably beat the lower tier teams. I think the NIP upset is a little bit logical.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that the reason the top teams lost to the bottom teams was probably because they just didn't worry about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has, obviously, if you directly ask them, they're not going to say that.
Right.
But there's definitely a sensation that, we were going to win, and
yeah. So
yeah,
the conclusion of this topic is people are probably overrating NIP.
I mean, that's how I feel. Obviously, if you guys had watched the games, maybe Emily watched the games and she could say something.
I agree with you. Maybe it's just because I've been really down on NIP because of their roster since it was announced. I've been meaning to write that article about SKT players after they leave SKT that was kind of inspired by the initial announcement of this roster, actually. But even in the win and the Mysterious Monkeys loss, I would say that at least Mysterious Monkeys have some sort of like direction and synergy. I'm not going to say that they're a good team, but I think that if I was a challenger team, I would rather play NIP because I think they still... They don't, like, to me, and maybe this is just my general bias against that roster, so I'll admit that I already have that personally, but I still don't see a lot of coordination from NIP, and I still think they really rely on a lot of, like, weird individual outplays or just kind of situations where it can be very coin flippy. I guess Mysterious Monkeys do as well, but again, I don't know, both these teams make a lot of mistakes, so this is, I don't feel like I'm making my point very well, but when I look at these two teams, I think that Mysterious Monkeys at least have a direction, even if they can't execute it, whereas I don't think NIP have even that, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think two things that make NIP a little bit better than Monkeys now. One is that I think NIP figured out draft priority and on the 7.15 and 7.14 patches like way before a lot of teams. Like they were not first prioritizing Kalista even before a lot of the LCK teams weren't first prioritizing Kalista. So that was like a big part of how they beat Rocket also, was that they just like picked a lot of Alistar Maokai and these engage comps and these more well-rounded team comps, even against Misfits, like they gave Misfits trouble. So I think that that's something that is giving NIP an advantage. Another thing that gives NIP an advantage is I feel like Kikis and Amazing just kind of do their whole own thing 2v2 on Mysterious Monkeys, whereas Shook, I feel like, is a little bit less predictable in where he's going to be on the map and a little bit more well-rounded. And Hikyu has like really stepped up in the last few weeks, as opposed to, I feel like most of Mysterious Monkeys rookies have just like kind of not grown or evolved at all. So that's where I rate NIP a little bit higher.
All right, moving on. I believe that this is your topic, Kelsey. EU personality versus competition.
It's actually Emily's.
This is my topic, actually. So piggybacking on what we kind of hinted at previously. Let me see if I can pull up. I meant to pull up some of these team compositions. Let's see. Basically, so we had the final week of EU LCS. There were some matchups that teams took a little bit more seriously than others. We had, so for example, in Vitality Splice, we had some nice Shaco top lane. We had Fiddlesticks. We had like people swapping positions, picking up random champions, stuff like that. I think the EU broadcast team did a good job in like basically saying like this is all for fun and stuff. But in light of what a lot of the criticism has been levied against Europe in terms of like, oh, European teams are boring, European teams have no personality, etc. This final week, maybe it's just because I'm too serious of a person, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit in terms of like a last ditch effort to kind of try to get people to get like involved and like, oh, this is like super fun, look, like, you know, Wadded is playing Vayne or or whatever. And I don't know, it left kind of a sour taste in my mouth personally, but I guess that could also be that I'm too serious. I guess I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like a lot of people are always like, well, EU is boring, they never do anything fun, blah, 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 blah. So this week we did have a couple of teams that were playing each other in games that did not matter whatsoever for standings, that just basically picked random stuff, a lot of role swaps, just for the fun of it. So I guess I wanted to see how people felt about, first of all, the fact that teams did that in the first place, and second of all, like, what does it mean in the grand scheme of things, especially given all that we've talked about with Europe?
Mark, you, I think, are... I'm sorry, Kelsey, we'll
No,
get to
go
in a
for
second.
Mark.
But Mark, I'm really curious in your opinion about this, just because you previously coached and you were on the team side. So whenever teams get into games that don't matter, how much should they be tryharding?
I think you should still be tryharding. Not necessarily in the I'm gonna pick my best shit here and try and smash tryhard mentality, but at the very least in like a, well, I can try and learn a little bit more about a comp. I can try some different stuff out. Let's go for like, let's see if we can play this like weird style. Like let's take, you know, a team from North America, for example. Like if I was C9 and nothing I did mattered for my standings, like maybe I try it like one of those Galio comps out or something, like something outside my comfort zone and just try and win like that. I'm mostly with Emily here just because this to me isn't like, oh yeah, look how much personality we have. It's like if anyone locks in dumb shit and role swaps, and to be fair, it's not like the dumbest stuff, but like, you know, yeah, that's fun, but that doesn't mean like I'm gonna watch your stream or care about like your actual team's narrative. It's a totally different situation.
Yeah, but
so
there's no evidence that they are. I mean, North America could have done this just as easily as Europe, right? There's no evidence that Europe is doing this because they're like, please, someone pay attention to us.
Yeah. Well, so
No,
like
I mean, I didn't think it was necessarily that, but I did think it was interesting within the greater context of a lot of the criticism that has been levied at Europe. I also did see like a couple of NA pros being like, wow, I didn't think this was allowed, even though we have seen like a few situations like that in NA, most noticeably the Teemo pick after it was like what was it like? Oh, if I get so
Retweeted,
many
yeah.
retweets, like we'll play Teemo.
Yeah. Max Low tried that. He got like 1K retweets. Poor guy. He has like 8K followers or something. It's a little sad for him. But I think there are a few things here. One is obviously that I don't think it was driven by, okay, people need to watch us, we need viewers. I think it was, again, more driven actually by the personalities of the players. And I think that the Roccat Misfits one was driven by Roccat primarily, and the Vitality Splice one was driven by Splice primarily. Because even the Misfits players were kind of like, the Misfits team was kind of like, well, we weren't going to, but then Roccat were going to, and so it just kind of feels like you sort of have to at that point if the other team is doing it. And then, so Splice also have a history of doing this kind of thing. Like, when you would watch them in Challenger, if there was games or like they were just kind of, as Diggy U, they were steamrolling everyone, and if there was a 5-game series or something and they knew they would most likely 3-0 otherwise, they would roll swap and Suncooks would play Vayne. So I think like it's part of the personality of that particular team, and Wadid, like I did an interview with Betsy where he said Wadid both games came in with a clear idea of what he was going to play these games, you know, and support is a boring role, so we just kind of let him. So I don't know. I think it was just like blowing off steam and a bunch of other factors that contributed to these games happening less than pay attention to us. But like Splice, it was really weird because last split Splice did it as well, but they did it against H2K. And Prawley would not let H2K troll. So they were playing like these very serious comps against like Splice completely trolling, and it was just a complete and utter disastrous, like one-sided destruction. It was a massacre. So I think that that's part of why, like if one team is doing it, it's kind of like the game sucks anyway, so the other team just falls into it as well.
Yeah. In Twitch chat, Zodiac Sheep says, I kind of feel like end of split trolling is a little bit of an EU tradition, at least among certain teams. So kind of agreeing with you that this is a tradition. So,
yeah, I wouldn't get like bent out of shape about it as a viewer or fan or whatever. Just from like the coaching perspective, I don't see any upside to it, and so I would probably push for us to like, you know, we don't have to be 100% try hard. I'm not going to keep the guys the night before up till 9 p.m. for 3 hours prepping pick ban for this match because it doesn't matter. I'll probably be like, all right, guys, you know, we're going to go in there. Let's come up with a comp we want to try and kind of go a little bit more relaxed into the game, but still at least with a semi-serious mindset.
Yeah.
And I think, even for Misfits and Splice, it feels a bit weird because they have 1 week until playoffs. For Vitality and Rockhat, they're completely out. Like, they don't even play promotion, they don't play anything, so they don't care. But for Splice and Misfits, it kind of sucks. So.
Yeah. Let's move on. LCK playoffs, more hype. This is the third week in a row of LCK playoffs hype. I don't know if you can keep doing this, Emily.
Well, I've gotten 2 people to watch so far, so I feel like
if this hype segment makes you watch an LCK game, please tweet at Emily.
So anyway, last week we had Afrika and SKT, which was a 2-0 sweep of SKT. If anyone wants to see what a true Ardent Sensor Rush comp looks like, Game 1, Afrika actually ran this really interesting idea that they'd obviously prepped for, so I'm not saying like a lot of people are like, are they trolling? And it's like, no, they actually came up with this basically like kind of cheese strat where Twitch took relic shields and Janna had like GP10 Quints and Seals, I believe. And the idea is a Twitch Janna lane that rushes Ardent Sensor as quickly as possible.
Do you know how the LPL do that? They just have their Lulu take Ignite and give him first blood. You know, it's much more efficient.
They even like made an effort to give them first blood because Spirit went, I believe, red red to blue to his own Gromp to scuttle, and then invaded, but with the purpose of they brought Kuro down, and they ganked like 4-man versus 2-man bot, and they killed Wolf. But the kill went over to Kuro. But anyway, yeah, they had like a massive gold lead just in that lane from the strategy, and obviously it didn't work out because SKT kind of foiled them. They weren't able to get ahead early enough, and even when they did build the Ardent Sensor quickly, they didn't really use it. So anyway, the second game is a lot better if you just want to see like a standard game. But I thought that strategy was interesting, even though like it obviously failed.
Wasn't the game the one where Faker like wasn't doing well in lane either? Like they had some advantages and stuff, or was that the second game?
I think you're
That
thinking
was the first game where he played Galio, right? I think they blinded Galio. So.
Yeah, and he was getting kind of pooped on a little bit.
And Kuro was Ori.
I think he did well in that matchup, all things considered, because it was Galio and Ori on 7.15, so...
Yeah.
It's a victory for Kuro. He usually gets shot on by Faker. Anyway. But yeah, so SKT are obviously moving on. They're about to face Samsung, which is a team that has given them a lot of trouble this year. So it actually should be an interesting matchup. It'll be a best of 5. I was unimpressed with the way Samsung played against Longzhu in their final match. I actually thought that Longzhu made, like, even though they kind of came out and everyone was saying it was like this super dominant victory, I actually thought both teams made a lot of mistakes, and especially Samsung. Like, it kind of turned into Juve trying to drag the team to victory. And that was kind of sad to watch because I actually think Juve's been, like, criminally underrated this past split. I think he's had, like, a career split, so... but it should be a really interesting matchup, especially since Samsung have given SKT a lot of trouble, and I don't really think the Africa series was necessarily a showing of what SKT can do like at their best. So I'm really just hoping for a good best of 5 where both teams play at their best, and if that happens, it should be a really great series.
Samsung versus it's the World Championship final rematch, so
yeah,
you can just package it like that.
It was that too. I didn't even think that.
That is actually really cool. So whoever wins this wins Worlds? Is that?
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Sure.
Wow,
Sure.
that's exciting. You can skip the next 2 months
skip the rest
if
of the
you
season.
just tune in to this match. That's really exciting. All right.
No, I think it's interesting because Samsung have been having a lot of problems with playing around Crown and playing with Crown, and I don't think they figured out like the side lane to mid lane thing yet, so
Yeah.
it should be fun.
Yep. And it starts tonight, by the way, at R1.
Tonight being
In
Monday.
case you were
Plans.
confused, we were
Well, I
mocking
guess
you.
like early tomorrow morning. It
Okay.
starts at 1:00 a.m. tonight, Pacific.
So if you're watching the VOD, it has already
But, like
occurred.
basically in 10 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. It's good.
One last week of LPL. Kelsey, this has got to be you. There we go.
Yeah. I just wanted to briefly talk about some of the storylines in LPL for the final week because I feel like, not many people care that much about LPL, but it's been kind of exciting this late, and it's been really fun to watch. There's going to be like EDG versus WE to finish off, which they've been billed as the top 2 teams this entire split. RNG has been coming up pretty hard. We've even had IG do pretty well, make some improvements, so I think that that's a really exciting thing to see. RNG are just kind of brute forcing everything and winning really hard. Like I don't think that Xiaohu has ever played this well, and that's really exciting to see because I feel like RNG were not coming into playoffs looking like this. They weren't on the same page at the start of spring, so I think maybe having UZI take some time off was really beneficial for them. Really helped them kind of refine themselves. So I'm really excited about this RNG team. So I don't know. I think it's fun. If you guys have some time, you should watch some of the games, especially the EDG WE set.
Kelsey, which Should I, if I had, like 2 hours, should I watch LCK playoffs, which Emily's pushing on me, or should I watch LPL, which you're pushing on me?
Well, fortunately, they don't overlap.
No, I only have 2 hours.
But
I'm
why-
very
how do
busy
you have,
being
like-
unemployed, so I only have these 2 hours of time.
He has a strict sleeping schedule from midnight to noon,
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
it's
he
true.
has to
Actually,
watch during the day.
Yeah.
I personally have done more work while freelancing than I've ever done in esports, so it's pretty good.
What? You're not answering the question.
I mean, you should. I mean, no one's going to tell you not to watch. I feel like Travis should watch LPL though. Like, I feel like that would.
You've
be
been
the
saying that for
exception.
years. You've been like,
No,
LPL's got
Travis,
more drama than any
Most
LCS.
people will say watch LCK because of the game quality and all this stuff, but I feel like Travis wants to have fun watching just like weird
Crazy
games
shit.
and people go at it and like crazy shit and like the really overhyped storylines and stuff like this. And I feel like he would have more fun with LPL.
I want whatever
I'd actually
the
agree with that.
WWE equivalent is of League of Legends. Like that would be great.
There you go. I think that's LPL. You're
Okay.
covering the wrong region all this time.
All right.
Travis.
Whenever I head to China for Worlds this year, I will just not return. How frightening!
there's
What?
That sounds
I'm
like
just gonna
weirdly
say-
ominous.
there's like IG versus EDG this Thursday, and then
Oh yes. Speaking of
W
LPL
versus,
and the WWE, Twitch chat bringing up the Vasily thing. Kelsey, talk to me about your discovery of the Vasily thing. Your decision to write it up, your opinions on it. I want this added to the topic list.
Okay, so I get paid a certain amount of money for translating Chinese news every once in a while. I'm not proud of myself. I saw this on Weibo. I thought, it might be interesting. It might be something that gets front page and people can laugh about it and have some fun. So I translated his Weibo post.
I feel like you're bearing the lead. You're acting as if it was like any other piece of news. I want your reaction. You read it.
It kind of is.
So you read it, and you're like, Vasily is blaming sexual temptations, or what was the phrasing that you used? It was really good.
And the way he says the sensual pleasures, he's indulging in
Yes.
sensual pleasures.
Yeah.
That is
That's like
the best.
closest translation. I was looking up the characters. It's like, yes, this is probably about good. So that's a very close translation to what he was saying. And, I mean, the thing that it was kind of just a normal news post. Maybe I'm just too China'd, but it didn't seem like that weird to me. I thought that the West would think it's funny.
I mean, how
But
many
these kinds
other
of-
people have said sensual pleasures have been distracting me?
I mean, like in story-wise, it's like not that far out there, but in terms of like terminology used, it's way out
Yeah,
there.
the terminology, and also that somebody would admit this, right? Like, we've all been in League of Legends esports for a long time. We all know specifically North American players who like they suddenly become single, and then suddenly they follow every girl on Twitter, and then you see them with different people all the time, and then their performance suffers. So this is not, to all of us, this is not a surprising story, but for me, I feel like it's so funny that he just like comes out and admits it. Like, can you just imagine one of the NALC, like a player on TSM, let's just use Biofrost because he's the poor victim, Biofrost comes out and he's like, listen guys, I've just been fucking too much. Like, that's why my support play has not been good. It's just been rough. This is the problem. Like, it's just so funny to me, Kelsey, that LPL is so crazy that this does not surprise you.
And it just a few points of context here, okay? So the first point of context is this is like the fact that girls distract players from performing well is already a big part of the dialogue in the LPL. It's already a big part of the dialogue. It's like to a lesser extent in NALCS, but it has been brought up, right? People like the Crumbs made the cute like parody video, whatever. But in the LPL, Sanshao did a much more in-depth, long video about how if you like it literally translated when I read someone did a translation of it, if you want to climb, you must be celibate.
Yes, I remember that. That was like 2014 or 2015.
People still quote that.
Yeah, it's so good.
It was last year because I was in China when it came out, but so that's already part of the dialogue. And then there's like this really kind of crazy e-girl culture in the LPL, and I don't really know how much I want to talk about it, but there are a lot of like girls and players. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. So it's like not surprising to me that he would come on. And then second, it's Vasily, and he was receiving criticism because he hadn't played on a starting LPL team for a really long time. He first got his debut shot a few weeks ago on Newbie, and he had apparently done really well in tryouts. Newbie kind of sacked their entire roster except for Swift and started playing a bunch of different players. And the roster was looking really good. And then suddenly he's benched. They lose a couple games with LWX, but then LWX starts performing really, really well. So people are saying, okay, well, Vasily obviously like had some sort of mental breakdown, because he's also like had these violent explosions where he destroys equipment, or he's just like complete and utter garbage, or all these other things. And so people are talking about this because he is kind of a controversial figure. So it's almost like it's better for him if he gets on Weibo and says, I've been having too much sex, right? Rather than saying, I had a mental breakdown and I needed time for my health. Like, if he says I needed time for my mental health, that's almost worse than like, I've had too much sex, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well,
It is kind of funny though, because I feel like China, like their culture is like, they even have a word for it where it's very hanshu, where you don't talk about like affection. You don't talk about that sort of thing. So it's like, it's kind of funny in that context as well. But overall, like the fact that it's Vasily, the fact that there are a lot of these like weird girl problems, and this has been like an ongoing debate in the LPL. Like teams don't even want their players to advertise that they have girlfriends, right? This is like a big concern. I think that it's not that surprising to me.
yeah. It's just too funny. And I also love I love the dichotomy for you, Kelsey, of someone who spends so much time talking about like deep analysis of the game, and then you're like, well, guess I'm talking about today how much Vasily's fucking other women. You know, like it's too good. It's too
I
good.
have many talents,
Yeah.
you know?
It's just one of those days, you know. You should come up with a segment that's just like Fun Friday. And every Friday, you're just like,
Most
all right, guys.
ridiculous
Random
Chinese
China
article.
Yeah, just the
I
tabloid stuff
probably,
from
if
China.
I just
You're like,
wanted to do
Yeah.
like random Weibo posts.
Yeah.
Like I could probably just translate random anime drama, because
Yeah.
there's usually something like that every week anyway.
Yeah.
So.
there was way back in the day when everybody pretended that World of Warcraft was an esport. There was a website called World of Ming, and I will never forget World of Ming. It was just this guy who would go on these in-depth, like tabloid drama things about like what was going on behind all the scenes, but then he would also contextualize it as if it's like one of those K-dramas or whatever, and say like because Hafu was brought up a lot in it, not to bring up an ex-girlfriend on the show, but
I don't care.
yeah, and it was just funny to see how he would be like, oh yeah, so and so is really excited about Hafu-chan, or her senpai is like, it was so funny, that website. And that could be you, Kelsey. That's what I'm getting at. This is you on Fridays.
I'm just really excited about
World
this,
of Moser. Just go into all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
I'm glad you've guided me in the direction that my career should take.
Yeah.
We're good.
All right. Moving on. How frightening is patch 7.16? We've been talking about patches so much recently and how much they've been affecting, and we all were worried about 7.14, and then I think we were all like, okay, 7.14 isn't that bad, and then 7.15 came out, and we were like, oh. And now we've got 7.16 on the horizon, hitting mid laners. What's up?
I think the first thing, since this was my topic, is just that I feel it a little bit strange that they're hitting mid laners in particular, that they've decided that, because their explanation for hitting mid laners was that the same mid laners are getting picked over and over again. But the reason for that, I don't think, is because some mid laners are just like ridiculously overpowered. It's because you aren't targeting the mid lane champion pool, right? When you're doing bans, you're banning tops, you're banning jungles, you're banning supports. So to me, it seems a little weird that they would have decided, oh, the same mids are getting poked over and over again. Well, that's because we're not targeting them because they're not the problem. So I think that that's a little bit strange. Other than that, I thought that the patch was generally kind of nice, kind of light, just a few tweaks here and there. The direction was a little weird.
I didn't mind some of the mid lane bans, just because there's like not enough focus, I guess, in the draft on changing up what someone's mid laner can play. Like if you like playing Ori, you'll get it. You want Cassidy, you get it. At the same time, I don't mind them trying to change it a little bit, just because I felt like a couple of them are a little obnoxious. Like I really don't like most of them. Actually, fine with. I just really don't like Talia, and I felt like that was one that like the mana nerf. I have a hard time knowing exactly how impactful that's gonna be. I haven't seen the win rate stats in solo queue.
I think it's significant. I mean, I don't think it's gonna kill her, but I think it's significant. So I think it's a good change. Yeah.
I don't think any of these changes. Maybe I'll be completely wrong, but like since they weren't getting targeted a lot in draft to begin with, I'm not sure if these changes are going to have the same or like the impact that they want, which seems to be people picking either more risky mid lane picks or like more like just having a different champion diversity in that lane. Talking, and obviously this is never like a really good indicator, but like talking to a few mid laners last week, even looking at this patch, they were kind of like, it doesn't really seem like the changes are going to be significant enough to keep us off of those champions. But again, like obviously, if they're testing it out in scrims, I wouldn't know how those are going. So I'm not sure if that sentiment has been changed a bit. But I guess I just don't see. Yeah, I don't see enough to force like all of these mids out. When it's still, in my opinion, more important to focus target bans in other roles.
I think one thing that I like a little bit out of it is that it seems to be targeting to an extent the mids that are super good at trading early levels and then also just wave clear forever. So I think that that's a fairly decent philosophy to have because I don't think you should really have mid laners that do that. So.
Yeah, it's like Ori, Corki, Syndra, Talia.
Yep.
So, how frightening is patch 7.16?
Not very frightening.
Okay.
I think is what we were saying.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, unless like the mid lane pool ends up with all these nerfs, like Azir's a god now. Let's all play Azir. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on mid laners that might be good, so it'll be fun. Though, Ardent Sensor is still here, so that's a little frightening.
Yeah.
The only change was like coin is 10% instead of 15% missing on it now, so that's kind of sad. But the e-girls are here to stay.
All right, moving on. NALCS playoffs are this weekend. Starting off with some super hype stuff. You want to? This is my topic. I put it in there, but Mark, you're gonna be
you got
on
it,
the
dude.
desk. All right, so you got some teams.
Yes.
They're in North America.
Teams.
They're C9 and Dignitas, and they are CLG and Envy. They're playing on Saturday and on Sunday. Games start at 12 p.m. Super hype. I think C9 is going to be Dig, and I think CLG is going to be Envy.
CLG Envy should be pretty one-sided for the most part based off how Envy looked heading into playoffs. CLG wasn't looking that great either, but they at least looked a lot better than Envy. And then Dig versus C9. Both those teams kind of went on late season runs, but I think C9 has really hit their form with Impact doing reasonably well, and it feels like Dignitas sometimes struggles versus top teams.
Yeah. And these are best of fives, so...
Except for TSM playing Xerath.
Yeah, that one wasn't as hard.
That was a little questionable.
They just try different things, guys. So, are we all in agreement that C9 is going to be Dig and CLG is going to be Envy?
I think the closer... I mean, I guess it's hard because CLG didn't look as great towards the end of the split, but I think the closer match will still most likely be C9 Dignitas. Just based on how Envy looked as well. Unless CLG is like unable to fix any of their issues and Envy suddenly fixes like half of their issues and like skyrockets. Yep. I think C9 Dig will probably be the closer series.
Yeah. It's interesting because there are aspects that feel like either series could be upsets, but it still feels like there's a pretty clear answer on both sides.
Yeah.
Like Dig have certain advantages. I still think in the way that they like the dragon setups are pretty good. Cloud9 I feel like haven't been playing as strong of laning picks, so there are openings there early. So I don't know. And then of course like Envy's arguably biggest asset is CLG's biggest flaw, and there you go.
Well, that's
there you go. There's your desk narrative.
Yeah.
You're free of charge.
Thanks. Can you just write that down for
Lyra
me?
versus Omar God hype.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. So if Twitch chat could please start filling up the chat with questions. We'll go a little bit longer on that because we had a little bit of a shorter show this week and started quite later. But in the meantime, while the questions are coming in, I'm very excited, everyone, because it is, of course, the highlight of the show, the reason everyone tunes in. Emily Rand's anime pick of the week.
I forgot.
No, I didn't forget. I'm just trying to figure out how to introduce the show, so it's really weird.
What's the name of it?
Concrete Revolution Show.
Sorry, what is it? Concrete Revolution?
Concrete. It's like Concrete Revolution minus N.
Oh.
Like
okay.
It's Concrete Revolutio, I guess is how you say it. But
Studio.
It's two like seasons, so it's about like I think a total of 25 episodes, 26 episodes if I remember correctly, but it's basically follows Japan like post Reconstruction, but also with superheroes, and it's like very weird, very zany, very colorful. It's a little bit more episodic than you might expect going into it, and it also has a non-linear timeline, which is a huge turnoff for a lot of people. So again, I'm recommending this with the understanding that like probably if people even do check out anything I recommend, probably half of them are going to end up hating the show.
So is this like Japanese Avengers set in the 70s?
Like it starts, I believe, someone actually went through, because anime fans are like insane in this way, and I'm saying this like as a good compliment. Someone went through and like made a timeline that matches up with like the timeline in this alternate retelling. But that's kind of like what it is, except it starts like in the 1950s,
yeah, I
believe, in terms of how the actual timelines match up. It covers a lot of sentiment that was in Japan around the time of the Anpo protests. So, I mean, I found it really interesting as like an alternate history retelling kind of thing. And I think the conclusions and what it has to say about superheroes is also kind of interesting to me personally. So it does also have some flashy animation, weird character designs and stuff like that, which, as Kelsey will make fun of me for, is like always kind of the draw if something ends up looking pretty or just kind of like cool and weird.
Yeah.
So it also has that going for it.
I want you next week to recommend a really ugly anime.
Yeah.
It's just like has nothing visually going for it.
I can do that actually, but it would be ugly in terms of like the reaction to it, not ugly in terms of whether I think it's ugly.
Yeah, the animation. I want you to find something where you're like, the animation's shit in this, but I really like the story.
New Berserk.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, I heard that's pretty bad. I haven't watched it myself, but one of my friends actually even wrote an article on like how bad that animation was and like what went wrong in terms of like frame rate dropping and stuff like that. It was bad.
All right. So, question. So a lot of people are asking who People voted for MVP. I don't think we can.
I
do
will
that.
not reveal mine. Yes.
But what I will say is that I got an invite to vote for all that stuff, and I abstained for this split because between the Yahoo stuff and all that kind of thing, I don't think that I am qualified right now to vote for anybody. So I voted no one for MVP, and I abstained and asked them not to put my name on the thing.
The EU broadcast team already revealed who they voted for.
Really?
I don't think Riot particularly cares if you say because it's going to come out in time.
Yeah, but it's kind of nice to
They don't want you
plan
to leak.
I like
things.
waiting until I always prep an article, and I'll be doing the same thing this year of why I picked my votes and who my runners up were and all that stuff. So I think context is really important. So I don't just want to spit out names until it's announced, and then I can release how I went about choosing people.
I wasn't invited to vote for the NA one this time, so I'm just gonna. But the EU ones were really weird. So I might just not do an article just because they seem extremely hipster, and then just be like, yeah, if you don't understand and you don't agree with me, then you just don't watch the games and you don't know. So
yeah.
Didn't we call a couple interesting things in the last split for EU? Because I actually got an invite for NA, but not EU. Which makes sense.
Paororo San says they would like Emily's suggestions for anime that is similar to Shogogiko no Soma.
I haven't seen it.
All right.
Shokugeki no Soma. Yeah, I've only seen the first episode, and I've heard it's really good, but I have not seen it, so I wouldn't be able to make a comparison. Although there was another food anime that again I didn't watch, but a lot of people really like, and now I'm forgetting what the name of it was. So, I'm sorry.
One thing I'll say.
Go ahead.
Have you seen it, Mark?
I have seen some of that. I was going to go back to the TP thing because I didn't really say anything at the time. We can't talk necessarily, or you can talk about who you voted for, but one thing I found really interesting was the amount of people who mention Ole, but never actually provided an argument for him. Whereas, I made an argument for Jensen, someone made one for Bjergsen. A lot of people who, said I prefer Bjergsen. They said Ole should be over Jensen as well, but not a single person I've seen has actually made a case for him. It's very curious, isn't it?
He plays weird stuff. He's
cool.
He's very cute. So kawaii.
And I will go out and say I did actually vote for him, but I saw a lot of people saying that they thought Ole should be over Jensen, and I was like, what is the argument there? And no one made a single argument for it. They just say it. I'm like, what the fuck? How can you just say that? As well as the fact that, and I'm obviously going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, people are just so bad about representing people's arguments correctly. Tilts the shit out of me.
Yeah. That's the rant that you went on. You're like, I'm definitely going to go on a rant here. Here's a statement.
I can go longer. It depends.
Sentence.
I don't want to go off on a tangent if you're trying to wrap things up.
No, I mean, I'll give you 30 seconds.
All right.
Just say something so that the segment that he cuts out isn't about Vasilian sex. Go.
You should do that anyways. But just I don't understand how people do they have no hearing or reading comprehension. If you want to say you think Bjergsen's better than Jensen, go for it. But they're like, yeah, he didn't talk about average game time, and I was like, wait, that's how I prefaced that whole sentence was they were tied for.
Oh, you're talking about your video on YouTube.
Yeah, well, not in my video. There was a
response,
post.
yeah, where someone was like, Bjergsen should be the MVP, and this is why, and they brought up a bunch of stuff that Mark had said out of context.
Yeah, so that was one of them. There's I even say I don't think Jensen is the best damage dealer in the league, and that's one of the points I will concede, but then I bring up all his other stats, and somehow all anyone talks about is the damage numbers. Then there's what I keep retweeting where people are like, Jensen has more resources. Look at his gold share on his team. That's why his numbers are better. It's dude, he has the most fucking gold because he leads the league by 50 fucking kills. Where do you think that gold came from? It's people's brains don't work. And it's very annoying when something like that gets There you go. There's your rant.
Okay.
How do you do that in emojis so that he can make that the title? People's brains don't work.
You just is there a brain emoji? Actually, there isn't a brain emoji, is there? That's kind of weird. It would be so good.
You should do a video that's anti, or like that's Mark versus Reddit kind of deal, like Thorns versus Reddit?
I don't really care. I mean, like I made my
It
point.
seems like you care right now.
Well, no, I mean, like, I'll talk about it because I'm on video and I don't have to put the effort in, but to like go in and research and talk about it again, like I don't feel like a lot of the points they brought up were particularly valid. They made very good points that yes, Bjergsen's a better damage dealer than Jensen, which I agreed with. That was never something I disagreed with. So I don't know. It's
But
just like,
if he's the better damage dealer, shouldn't he be MVP, Mark?
yes, because that's the only thing that matters. And his teammates are better, so that's why he can't have as good as stats, but that's also why he's more valuable, because it's not like, if you replace Bjergsen, his team does better. But,
Mark, why do you hate TSM so much? You shit on Biofrost and try to pick fights with them, and then you put those videos up on Twitter.
You said you want them to bomb out of playoffs.
And then... And then it's like
as soon as you say something negative, you're a hater. I think Kelsey is very familiar with this phenomenon.
Yeah, I hate a lot of things.
And I just love C9 so much, even though a couple weeks ago I was saying I think maybe their coaching staff's overrated, but whatever. I love C9 so much.
You're like, their coaching staff is overrated because they get like all this credit when really it's these god tier players on their team. That's amazing.
I believe I said it was actually the death of lane swap that made C9 good. But whatever.
I just don't know why you hate TSM so much.
I hate CLG apparently too.
Yeah.
I love TL.
yeah, that's it. It's just that loyalty. All right. Austin Max 1 says, is there a chance any LCS expands to 12 teams in 2018 if they get enough good applications? I don't think so.
To 12?
Yeah.
I think it's reasonably likely.
They said specifically in the interview that I did with them that they were keeping it at 10, so they can always change their mind. But I just, if I was them, I would not expand to 12. I think that, I don't know, unless you're making big format changes, which maybe they will. Who knows?
Based on the promotion tournament.
I think the likelihood of like format changes is still up in the air too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they make some major changes to things like import rules or something like this, they might expand, but I don't know how likely that is either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that if you have the current import rules and you're expanding the league to like I know China already said they were gonna start with 12. Start with 14.
I think they're promoting another team.
And then
are continuing on until they hit 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know 20 is like the end goal by like the end of 2018. I think they said, but
they haven't really said what they're gonna do to the league. It's just funny. It's like we're gonna continue with this promotion circuit, and then we're gonna get 20 teams, and then there's no explanation of what happens after that.
But anyway, my point is that you can't compare it to China because even though North America, as far as I have heard, received a ton of applications, probably a lot more than they had initially perhaps expected. With China, at the very least, there's like an absolute gigantic player base to draw from and a lot more organizations in general, just based on population. In order to support more teams in North America, I think 12 would be like the absolute maximum that you would be able to have before significantly changing something about the way the league is run or implement rules or something like that.
But then would you guys have to have the super boring group format? Just like suck all of the enjoyment out of it.
Okay.
I also love best of two, so...
Well, I don't know. If you expand with best of ones and yada yada yada, I mean, it's not that crazy to think of, but there are other logistical problems, like you said, with the player base.
Yeah. Batman's Hood asks, this will be the last question, ask them if they want to make, well, I'm not going to ask if you want to. You guys have to do this, which I know Emily and Kelsey always freak out about, but make one bold playoff prediction for NALCS.
I have one more request after this, Travis.
Okay.
But before, we can do this first.
One bold playoff prediction. Something that is a bold prediction.
Define bold. Is like more than 50% bold?
Like,
Yeah.
saying Dignitas is going to win it would be a bold prediction, or saying TSM won't make finals, I think would be a bold prediction, or saying, I don't know, like there's going to be roster swaps or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
predictions are weird because it's like usually they're good if you actually believe them, but forcing bold predictions is kind
Well,
of
okay, what do you, like maybe you
I
guys.
mean,
this
I'm
isn't-
down to have some fun. I'm just trying to think of one.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I was gonna say maybe IMT making finals is a bold prediction, but I don't
I
even
would-
feel
I
like
don't-
that's a bold prediction.
Do you
because
feel like that's a bold prediction? They're, like, top
honestly,
two.
Like well, see, here's the thing. Based on their gameplay, IMT is a shoe-in for finals, in my opinion. But based on their previous history, they're not. And obviously, that's not how you That's not how you should be evaluating things. But like, in the context of a bold prediction, I don't know if that's a bold prediction or not.
Okay,
I
fine.
think it's really
We'll expand
hard
it
to
to
do
not
like
just
the
North America.
organizational history thing with IMT. You know
Yeah.
what? I'll just make that my bold prediction. IMT is going to win NALCS.
Okay, that's a good bold prediction.
damn, let's go.
I think that's good. Okay, Kelsey's is IMT is going to win NALCS. Emily,
I mean, I already said mine.
which is that
But
they're
you
going to
said
make
that's
it to
not bold enough.
which is that they're going to make finals.
I mean, the only other quote unquote bold prediction would be that Dignitas would beat C9, but I don't
Get
really
on my
believe
level,
that.
Emily. Come on.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Emily's is Dignitas is going to beat C9. Mark,
Okay, fair enough.
Immortals doesn't make it. Is that more or less?
out of
Yeah,
semis
I was
or
gonna
what?
say, is that a bold prediction?
Well, if they don't make, I mean, obviously they only have to play one series to make it to the finals. So yeah, they don't make it out of semis.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll accept all those as bold predictions. They're not that great, but. Woodbuck says bold prediction: Noah Winston will come out with an explanation video for why IMT didn't make final and how they will fix it.
That's a
not
very
bold
bold prediction.
prediction.
All right,
It is if you believe that Immortals will win.
Mark, you had a request as we're winding down.
So I might have missed this because I saw you tweet about it. Like when player makes confidence statement, they get downvoted or something.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Oh, so earlier today, I've seen this many times before, and now obviously the thread is like number 3. So, and then people say, "Shut the fuck up, Travis! You don't know what you're talking about." But there's this kind of interesting thing where I will go to make a title for a video or an interview, and in this case, I interviewed Contracts, and he said some stuff about whatever, and I asked him about junglers, and kind of unsolicitedly, I said, "How do you think you compare?" And, I didn't force him or pressure him to say this. He just suddenly said, I think I'm definitely top 2 right now, and the only one that I have difficulty with is Smithy. And obviously that is a bold statement. And it's just interesting because I tend to keep an eye on stuff when they go into the Reddit queue, because sometimes people say, oh, there's a typo, or oh, there's an issue or whatever, or they just say, Travis, you suck, and I want to argue with them. And it was interesting because after 25 or 30 minutes, this thing was just super downvoted. And all the comments in it were like, oh, well, this guy's an idiot or whatever. And so you just get the feeling as though people see something they disagree with on the subreddit, even though it is like an interesting conversation point, which, by the way, I feel like if you look in the comments right now, you see all this interesting conversation about who does deserve to be the best jungler and who isn't, and all this kind of different stuff. So I think, somebody can say something controversial. It creates a good bit of conversation. Everything is interesting, and it just sucks whenever I see this stuff get downvoted so often. Like, that is a very frequent thing that happens: is somebody says something interesting, and then it just gets downvoted because people don't like it or they disagree with it, and that makes me disappointed.
Yeah, because I mean, the other thing too is I don't even feel like this is a bold statement. Like, I don't know how Emily, but like, Smithy probably is the best in terms of like making a big early game impact. And then maybe you can debate, like, even though Lyra had a worse year and a down year, he still put up really good numbers and stuff like that. You can maybe talk about some of that stuff, but at the end of the day, like, he's pretty up there. He was a beast this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because you would, based off of the reaction, people think that that's weird. I think it's maybe just because Contracts is not that popular of a player, and so people don't want to believe that. It's just kind of interesting.
I had this interesting conversation I mean, it was mostly a one-sided conversation. So I'm not often, as people have noticed, I overpower conversations when I don't need to. But effectively, I think that a lot of narratives and stuff end up carrying over. First of all, because of for longer than they're actually true. First of all, because of the way that teams set up narratives, like within broadcast teams and a bunch of other things like this. And so, like, people don't want to necessarily change an established narrative or challenge an established narrative if it's been going on for a while. And then also the way that the fan base like has memories of certain narratives and the way that certain things stick out to them. And so it remains true even after certain things have changed, like the H2K team fighting meme and a bunch of other things. So I think things like Contracts doesn't really do anything, and Jensen has to solo win lane, and solo win games is like a really strong C9 narrative, and parts of it are still somewhat true. So I think that that's part of why people don't like Contracts. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is a lot of people just feel like they're so slow. Like I see Jensen doesn't roam. Like, yeah, I was one of the main critics of that. Like, like last season. And this season he's like all over the map. He's doing fine. And people just have such a hard time accepting what's happening this split for like just this split.
Yep. I think that's true. It's the same. Like, this is why EU will suffer a lot, is because even if they make changes to make the region more interesting, Twitch chat, Reddit, everyone will just spam that EU is boring, and so it's kind of this unfortunate thing for them. All right, I'll stick around for maybe 15-20 minutes after the show to hang out with Twitch chat as I normally do, but let's do some sign-outs and some plugs for things that you guys have going on in your lives, starting off with Kelsey Moser.
Interesting things going on with my life, just a ton of interviews, as usual. EUCS promotion, actually kind of excited for that. Yeah, I mean, same stuff really, so.
Well, that's exciting. You sound really excited about that, Kelsey.
No, I sound like really...
Is there content you want to promote?
Ooh, content. I don't know. I mean, I guess I did a few interviews that I thought were interesting this week.
You started a new show, a competing show, with someone who has said that he's going to reclaim his talk show throne, which he can happily have. But that was really nice of you to just...
start a competing show. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's Narrative Wake. I don't know, the title makes sense to me, but a lot of people are confused by the title.
I don't know if they're confused so much as just not fans of it.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's very Duncan-esque though.
I feel like Thorin's titles have gotten progressively like he's gotten to this
salon.
point where,
yeah. They're just getting more and more artsy. He's like, I don't make esports content. I make art films. You know, like that's.
My favorite is if you've seen the content for his like Thorin's side channel where he has like the Thor inquiry.
Yeah, I have not. Fun... I've not.
It's like
okay. That's kind of funny. Yeah.
Inquiry. Yeah.
It's
Emily,
basically like reflections, but for.
Emily, what do you have to promote? What's going on in your life?
So I actually have a lot of not league-related content coming out this week because I, again, spent the weekend at the Overwatch World Cup qualifier. But the thing that I'm going to be writing the most about this week should come as a shock to no one because it's LCK playoff time. So I had an article that just came out, actually, on Longzhu. But then also I'm going to be writing, this is something I did previously, I'm going to be writing requiems for the teams that get eliminated. So one will be written tomorrow. I'm not sure when exactly it will come out, but after the result of match tonight, and then whoever goes on to face KT and the loser of that match, I'll also be writing about that team and their year, I guess, and their world's chances. So
yeah.
Look forward to that if you like Korea, which I guess people usually start caring about Korea around this time, sort of.
I feel like Korea has kind of, LCK has almost eclipsed EU LCS and the English-speaking audience sphere. It's kind of sad, so people care. Good job.
Well, I mean, like at this point, I feel like it's when people start like. So if they haven't been watching it, maybe they start caring because teams are starting to qualify for the World Championships. So
Yeah. I want to thank, before we get to Mark, I am Klee, who just subbed, and it's my 50th sub for this channel.
Nice.
congratulations.
Thank you, I am Klee. And he didn't even use Twitch Prime to do it, which means hopefully he'll forget about it for the next 7 years. Mark Zimmerman,
Yep.
what's going on with you?
I'm probably gonna go to the bank today. I gotta get a haircut this week before the playoffs start.
Yeah. Is that why you're going to the bank? You got to get some money
I got a
out?
parking ticket today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, again.
That's just like
$73.
I've told everybody when they move to LA that you just have to build that into your annual budget because you just get parking tickets at some point.
Yeah, like, I parked at my girlfriend's place for the first time.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize street sweeping 8 a.m. on Mondays. Fuck me. All right. So
you have a girlfriend, by the way. Do you think that is going to affect your ability on the desk?
Probably.
Okay.
They've pledged to not do anything until marriage, so
Okay.
you shouldn't be
Mark comes out. Sorry, guys.
push.
My analysis has been lacking. I've been indulging in sensual pleasures too much recently. All right, so
I will be probably putting out a video this week, but I don't know what it's going to be on yet. I have one that I've been... So we talked about that one time, Travis. Remember? Over dinner. It's not even League of Legends related. It's Overwatch. You don't remember?
He does not remember.
well, the only one video that we've ever talked about doing, or the series that we've talked about doing over
No,
dinner
it's not a
is the-
video with you. It's
is a book
just we
release.
had a conversation about Overwatch.
Yeah.
and spectators.
Oh, yeah. Whenever we went and we went to that really good place, which, by the way, we should go to again. That was super good.
Not today. Or at any point this week, maybe. But yeah, I might just do that because it's been on my mind a lot recently because I talked to someone else about it. So maybe do that. It's also one of the few semi breaks before there's anything you need to talk about in League of Legends. So I might do it now.
Yeah. All right. That's the show, everyone. I have a YouTube channel, which has a new name, by the way. It's not the State of League YouTube channel anymore. It is now officially the Travis Gafford YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, you can do so.
About
on
time.
YouTube. Yeah. And everything there says by Travis Gafford. So I don't know. I feel kind of weird
He
about
has
that.
admitted that he doesn't have a monopoly on all things State of the League.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to also shout out Monte Cristo for making fun of that picture and getting more people in here this episode. That was cool.
Nice. Yeah, we did. My YouTube channel, my Twitch following seems to be growing significantly because we're breaking records every week now, so it's kind of cool. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitch and on YouTube to get access to this stuff. You can sub. There's a support page, travisgafford.com/support, while I look to figure out what is next in my life. And thank you to all my co-hosts who do this every week. And at some point in time, I've already taken Mark out to dinner, but I owe Emily and Kelsey food for doing this for free. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks.
Yay.